Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Pudgy Penguin market. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary, and we cannot wait to get into all of the news from the past 48 hours over the weekend. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of good price action, some bad price action. I'm going to bring it all to you in just a bit. But before we do that, just a reminder, folks, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This modern market is exceptionally risky. We do not know anything for sure. Please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, how are you doing this Monday, the 15th of January?
GM, doing quite fantastic. Had an amazing weekend, had a great workout in the morning, spent a bit of time over the weekend in the Saga DAO Discord, where they are collecting all the benefits that you get as a Saga mobile holder. And there are quite a lot of them. It seems like right now there's 2 or 3 things happening every day in terms of airdrops, projects, whitelist access. Also, the meta now seems to be to not reward every Saga holder, because some projects just have an allocation of, I don't know, 1K NFTs, and that they just get airdrop to, well, 1K random holders. But it is interesting to observe that so much is involving the Saga mobile. And also a lot of the stuff that ends up in your hidden collection on Phantom Wallet is actually good stuff. There was one thing that got sent out over the weekend, which is an airdrop claim that hides in the hidden folder, and it's not a scam, it is a legit airdrop. So it's definitely, I don't know, if you have more than 3 or 4 phones, I only have one, you could hire someone full-time to manage your Saga phones and make that a job.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning this off air to me, and I was thinking, I don't know if it's got to that scale just yet to hand over my phone to someone else. But it does sound very, very exciting. It is clearly linked to one of the reasons why you seemed to be so happy when you joined the call this morning. You sounded suspiciously happy, and you tried to attribute it to your gym workout, but I knew there was more. I knew there was more. And I think this Saga phone could be the reason, could be the real underlying reason beneath the the workout, which you allegedly think made you feel good. Is there any truth to this suspicion of mine?
I would say it's a mix. It is the Saga phone, it is the workout, and it's my successful gambling and luck streak on Shuffle, which is still disguised as airdrop farming, right? It's not gambling. If
Okay.
you're farming an airdrop, then it's actual real hard work. But I would say it's a mix of those 3.
Well, those are some very nice mixture of weekend activities. One of the things we were saying, and I don't know if this is across the board for people, we obviously started the year like stressed out, like super stressed out, trying to take advantage of every single opportunity left, right, and center. I don't know. It felt like this weekend was a bit calmer. Did you feel that the markets, I don't know, there has been movement. I just felt a little bit calmer about them. What was your feeling there? I can see Funky with his hand raised. Want to throw to him in a second.
It was a very chill weekend in terms of the market. Like, I just, participated in terms of doing a bit of airdrop stuff, portfolio restructuring, etc. But there was like no drama happening, no hacks, no rugs, no flash crashes. It was like, if you missed this weekend, you kind of didn't miss anything really. So that was weird. But with that being said, we are 2 weeks into 2024, and as you said, so much shit has happened. Like, the pace of those 2 weeks alone was absolutely insane. And we haven't even seen the big things that will come in January, the Frame mainnet launch, and a couple other things that I have my eyes on. So I would say the first half of Jan was maybe the calmer half, and there's a lot more to come until the end of Jan.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things you just mentioned there. I think you're probably right. I mean, I guess the Bitcoin move down had started to kind of happen before the weekend as well. So we already knew that that was happening. So interesting stuff. Funky, your hand's raised. How did you want to come in to start?
GM guys, just wanted to make my offer that I would happily manage your Saga phones for you. You can also send me your private keys if you guys would like. That's totally fine. All kidding aside, I do think that yes, the calm probably comes from the collective side that we've all experienced with the Bitcoin ETF actually going through.
Mm.
But the other thing I was going to say is, gang, if you're in here, we only have 4 reposts. Please like and repost the room. Let's get it out there because this is going to be a great conversation today, and look forward to what we're going to discuss.
Thanks very much, Funky. And yes, I actually agree with you. I hadn't thought about that necessarily, but I think there was so much pent up, and not anxiety, because I guess people kind of knew it was going to go through, but the stress of getting it through, and then with the Twitter hack, and then it actually ended up going through. Like I agree with you. I think there was a lot of historical significance to that moment, and people were very much like had a high level of anticipation for that moment happening. And maybe everyone just needed to take a little bit of a breather in the next few days. Maybe that is why I feel what I felt. Legendary, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's even if the expectation was that the ETF goes through, if you have that like remainder of uncertainty, it just stresses you out. Like I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago to do just a regular checkup, and well, we had to do some more imaging, etc. And he was like, "Look, 99.9% you're gonna be fine, but 0.1% it's gonna be an outcome that you don't like, but we have to check for it just to make sure." So I was like, in your mind, 99.9% everything's fine, 0.1% that it could be something really, really nasty, and they're like, "Oh, you're still stressed about that despite the odds being so much in your favor," because uncertainty, like the brain doesn't work like that it manages to attribute percentages to certain scenarios. You just see scenario A and B, and if B is a very, very negative one, it stresses you even if the odds of that happening are significantly lower than the positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Nice to think about it in kind of probabilistic terms, but sometimes, as you say, it doesn't really help entirely. Um, let's get into. I want to do some more thematic discussion before we get into the headlines. I'm going to give you the headlines first, then we're obviously going to get into them as usual. Then got some key important topics to kind of tease out of what's been happening in the kind of madness of the first 2 weeks. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. But let's get into it first. Let's get into the headlines and the price action. As always, this comes from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find that it brings you some value today, please do give it a like. Let's get into it with some price action. Bitcoin is at 42.6K, down 1%. ETH is down 1% at 2.5K. Solana is at $95, down a couple of percent. Ape is down 1% at 1.4. NFT volume on ETH was at 14.9. Solana was at 6.4. Bitcoin went missing on Crypto Slam today, so I can't report on that. In terms of the headlines, Pudgy Penguins kind of bucked the trend compared with every other collection, which has been bleeding down. They were up almost 8% to going past 12 ETH and at an all-time high in USD value. Number 2, Sotheby's launches natively digital, an auction for Bitcoin ordinals specifically, and some pretty high bids going through over there. And 3, Azuki announces new strategy across physicals, gaming, and anime, but the floor price is down to 6.5 ETH on that news that came out late on Friday. I think it's worth a discussion on all of those things at some point during the show. Getting into the floor prices, we've got CryptoPunks up at 58.5 ETH, Bored Apes at 24, down a few percent. Mutants at 4.6, up 5%. They've bounced. They dipped beneath 4 last week. DGods at 3, Captains at 4.5, Azuki at 6.5, down 8%. Penguins at 12, up 8%. Moonbirds at 1, Nouns at 8.2 ETH, winning bid. And a couple of notable sales. Got a CryptoPunk hoodie going through at 190 ETH, which is now worth $475,000. And an Azuki Spirit, a couple of Azuki Spirit sales taking place in the 90 ETH region. That's about 230,000 United States dollars. Legendary. That is the price action. Those are the headlines. Any numbers or price movements catching your eye?
Definitely the Pudgies. They have moved past 12 ETH from when you've written your snapshot. They're at 12.8 on Blur right now.
Oh,
so they are on a strong move again. And if you compare it, and I think this is also going to be an interesting conversation for later in the show, if you compare the Pudgy announcement and announcements in the community sentiment, and you compare the Azuki announcement where Azuki's followed a very, very typical, buy the rumor, sell the news, and Pudgies were buying the rumors and were buying the news. They are in a very, very different sentiment, both those collections, despite having, I would say, comparable news, like excluding what Pudgy did with the toys, but basically on what they are trying to build. They are not, it's not like you could argue that, Pudgies are so very, very close to launch their game and it's already, had play tests and people are saying this is an amazing thing that's happening. It's not like that they are like 10 steps ahead in terms of that side of the delivery. Again, that's excluding what they did with the real life activations with the toys because they're absolutely unmatched on that perspective. But if you compare just those two announcements, you can see a completely different underlying sentiment and foundation in the community when you look at the price action.
Interesting. So I think we could probably do this one of two ways. We can get into some other stuff first. It sounds like we want to go to this straight away because that's the most pressing thing. So why don't we just do that actually? And maybe the comparison that you've brought up is actually interesting. So instead of starting with Pudgies, should we go through what Azuki have announced, what they kind of announced first, and then we'll kind of link that. We'll try to figure out why the price is going down as a consequence, or have a discussion about that, and then we'll flip back round to the Pudgies because I think it's an interesting way to compare it actually. So let's do it like that, Legendary. I'll go through the news if you want to change the headline.
Sure, let's do it.
So this news came out. We're going to start with Azuki then, actually. So this news came out on Friday. Just going to share the screen for the people on YouTube, and we'll go through it a little bit for the people on X. They said that they started as an anime brand, and this year they're evolving into something far greater. Their priority is to grow the Azuki IP and reward the community. And it seems to be very clear. I mean, when I was asked my initial reaction on this on Friday, I thought this sounds cool. It sounds cool. It's like a really clear vision. They have 3 pillars: anime, physical, and gaming. We had already announced last week that they had appointed a very prestigious director to be working on an anthology series for the anime. For physicals, they've got they're expanding their line of products. And I think, maybe with a bit more of a focus on beans. In terms of gaming, they said their first hyper casual game featuring beans is slated to come out this year. They're exploring larger scale games that can elevate the Azuki IP through interactive experiences at the intersection of anime, gaming, and Web3. And then there was all kinds of other collector related stuff. Given that I think, because sometimes people always ask the question, well, how does any of this help? How does any of this help the underlying holder? There's a bunch of kind of announcements about collector status. Collector status tiers are granted based on the emblems earned from your collection. There are different types of emblems, and I guess they're trying to kickstart a flywheel that rewards their community. So that was the Azuki announcement. And in terms of the price action, just heading over to Mintify to show what happened here. It was pretty drastic. Like Azuki's had been doing quite well. If you look at the price action here, I mean, this was the dip on Friday. Like Azuki's had been up at almost 7.5, 7.6 ETH a couple of, on Tuesday last week. On Friday into Saturday, they dipped down beneath 6 ETH, like down to 5.7. They've since recovered to about 6.5. What's your thinking here, Legendary? Like, A, what's your thinking on the news? And B, what's your thinking on the price action?
I mean, the news is cool, the collector profile, everything, that's perfectly fine. So it is, as you said, it's a very actionable roadmap. I think, again, typical sell the news event on the one hand. On the other hand, it's something we talked about Pudgies quite a lot. Pudgies did have the token rumor, and it's something that you keep mentioning, right? That people might still be speculating that a token is to come somewhere in the future. And you could very well make the same point about Azuki, right? We had the anime token discussions. We see a collector profile where you collect points. So we have speculated on less in this space. So it would be perfectly fine to speculate on a token announcement. Maybe some people did that. or expected some of the announcements to be connected to the anime token and have a bit more info on that, if there is an official connection or how that would look like. So I would say because that did not happen, we saw the dip. But as you also just pointed out, for the viewers on YouTube, the dip has, while not fully recovered, but has been bought actually pretty quickly, and the floor is back to a more healthy level.
Yeah, I mean, I take your points. I guess I'm still confused as to why, and I think it's a good comparison. Pudgies is clearly just considerably stronger. Maybe the rumor is stronger there or something like that. But let's go around the table a little bit first, because I want to hear some other people's perspectives before I give my own. Jack, you've got your hand raised. Going to come to you right now. Would love to hear from Next as well, who's our special guest on Friday, and I believe is rocking an Azuki or an Azuki Elemental. I'm not 100% sure. This clearly is. I'm sure you have a take on this particular piece. No disrespect if it was one or the other. I genuinely don't know, because you can't tell the difference. Jack, you first. Let's go.
That was amazing. Look, I think one thing that hasn't been touched on yet is the Whale did a really great thread. Obviously, you know, as part of the Azuki group in terms of his position along with Legendary. But what I think the point system has been set out as is there are tiers within the collection itself. So it isn't a distribution model where just, you know, every Azuki gets one thing, every elemental gets another set of points. If you want to use like Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example of, you know, how that would be distributed. So I think what we may have seen is also reallocation of people looking for those traits and trying to take advantage of the traits that were going to yield more points in the Azuki collection as the news was just announced. So you've got, you know, people buying up. I think Legendary did very, very well with the animals, you know, seemingly yielding like much higher points. I think the Kidzukis on Elementals as well, they have a different tier. Elementals, Azuki themselves, like with the Spirit collection, and all those sort of things. There's difference to this. So I think what we've seen is people also sort of gambling on, okay, do these rarer traits, are they going to get more points? Will that, you know, relate to the token if the token is dropped? And basically, when we saw that dip and the sort of the back up to sort of the same levels, my I guess is that was holders not looking to exit, just looking to redistribute what they held to go to the more rarer options.
Interesting. Very, very interesting there. I've just got the Whale thread, so I'm just going to have a little glance over that while we throw to some more people. Would also love to get Shiv's perspective just after Next, given that we're kind of talking Azuki / Pudgies, kind of trying to make this comparison. Next, welcome back with us. What are your thoughts on the Azuki news and the price action?
Yeah, thanks for having me. By the way, it's OG Azuki BC.
There we go.
I always feel bad. People always say that, but I would say when we talked the last time about mutants, right, getting dumped heavily, that is the same guy has. He's the biggest holder of leverage in Azuki. So Azuki had around 700 NFTs in leverage. Now it's down up to 500. So it's a still big road to go down. So if he decided to dump, Azuki would probably dip very hard. So that's a big issue with Azuki. It's over leveraged on Blur. So that's a big point. And the second point is definitely even if I'm a huge holder, right, and everything else, Pudgies kept, if we compare to Pudgies kept delivering continuously, right? They would just keep delivering, deliver, right?
Yeah.
And they deserve to be first, right? Like 2023 was the year of Pudgies, but for Azuki, they need to redeem themselves in April. April is a big month for Azuki, so it needs to be good. Otherwise, it can go really bad. So that's just my perspective. I'm gonna always defend them, but it is what it is, right? You need to be real, and I think everyone recognizes that. So until the team keeps on delivering, and I think they will this year. I think Azuki will follow up, but for now, it's just people also shading elementals and trying to get collectors points up. And for OG collection, it doesn't really, because you get the same points or a bit less points with elementals. So like, there's no point in buying OGs, right? Like,
Got
there's
it.
no incentive to buy OGs.
I see.
And plus, the other side, elementals, in my opinion, are much more beautiful than OGs. That's just the reality, right? So yeah, just my thoughts.
Interesting. Okay, thank you so much for that perspective. Next, I guess that kind of backs up what you're saying, Jack, in the sense that maybe people are reorganizing the portfolio. We need to check the the activity on this to determine that perfectly. But I guess if you're not giving the OG holders a big enough incentive, but they still want significant exposure to the ecosystem, then they're going to want to maybe reallocate a little bit. That makes a lot of sense. Legendary, just wanted to ask if you had noticed, or something for you to think about before we go to Shiv, to see whether you'd noticed that your Azuki animal sloth had, has there been better price action on the animals in the interim? Have you noticed anything like that? But first, let's go to Shiv. Shiv, welcome to the stage with us. What is your thoughts here?
Hello, guys. Hope everyone's doing fantastic this morning. I like what Azuki has been doing recently. If you guys have noticed, they've become more consistent when it comes to delivering and consistent announcements. I think what people are looking forward to in 2024 is actually solid execution. I think everyone has a lot of eyes on Azuki. I think now what people are waiting for is expectations to be met alongside the execution. So looking forward to that in 2024, especially more so for the holders, especially the OG holders such as Next, who have been through the thick and thin. So definitely looking forward to that. When it comes to the collector status, I had some mixed thoughts about it, and I really want to understand the thesis behind it. So I did have a conversation with A's on top of that, because quantifying when it comes to points, there's always two sides to it, because there are members of the community who want to contribute to the ecosystem without, directly having access. I don't know, contributing without truly being recognized, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of people might contribute purely for the reason to have a collector status or boost that. So I had some mixed opinions about it, but I'm looking forward to. I know there's more to be rolled out, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So with the 12 ETH floor on Pudgies, I'll tell you why it's at 12 ETH, right? So this is some alpha. So last night in the company Slack, I dropped a message saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a big Pudgy." So everyone was, scouring for what Pudgy will suit Shiv, right? And I was like, "Oh, these are some nice ones. These are some nice ones. Okay, 10 ETH floor. Interesting. I wake up and all the Pudgies I was looking at have been sold. The floor's at 12 ETH. The Asia team was like, "Hey, Asia woke up as soon as you put you're looking for a Pudgy." And here we are. So essentially, the moment I started looking for a big Pudgy, it literally got swept up. So that's what happened. That's what happened essentially.
They heard Shiv was entering the big Pudgy chat and thought, I need to be in there as he on his entrance. But that's not a problem, Shiv, right? Like they're buying it up for you, so they're just waiting for you to buy now, right? You're going to be.
Oh yeah, now they're giving me a premium on OCC trading.
Oh,
so there we
kind
go.
of them.
Yeah, it's not like they swept up 2 ETH higher from the moment I was looking at it. It's okay.
Just too successful, Shiv. You've got to keep those moves a bit more quiet in the future. Really good points across the board. We want to dive more into Pudgies in just a moment. So that was a good. We're trying to compare these. I think it's a good comparison to make. On your point about the points, it's a bit of a tongue twister. We're looking at Whale's thread at the moment on YouTube. It says Azuki's collector status has 4 major tiers. We're not going to go into the pure mechanics of this, but just to get a top line thing. Less than 1,000 points is esteemed. You're an esteemed collector. 1,000 to 6,000 points is grand. 6,000 plus is legend. Top 100 collectors get into the order, whatever that precisely is. And it seems like they've even published a kind of bigger selection of information where emblems are awarded for holding tokens with special traits or token combinations. Here's a complete list of the emblems, how many points they earn you, and what the point to ETH ratio is. Oh, and it took Whale 3 hours to put that together. So shout out to Whale for going through and kind of making those calculations. One point that I would make instinctively on this is that we're seeing the points meta across every single DeFi application, every single other type of app that we might use in crypto at the moment. And I guess that's just one of the ways to try to incentivize activity on a collection. And I completely take your point, Shiv, because sometimes that can be like a detrimental incentive, right? You're encouraging like not genuine and authentic participation, but it's just one of the things that people in this space seem to want to move towards quite a lot. Legendary, want to check in with you first before maybe going back to Shiv to get his thoughts on that, and then I can see a couple of other hands. SHL, we're going to get to you in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also asked the question, what's been happening in the Azuki Elemental animal market, in the sloth cat market. And this is actually a very, very good example of that, because animals floor used to be at 1.4, 1.5 ETH, many offers being taken also at 1.3 ETH. As of a week ago or even a month ago, there wasn't much movement happening, with occasionally a rarer animal seeing or fetching a significant premium. But as of today, if you look at the animal floor in the Elementals collection, it is at 3.3 ETH on Blur. So it has seen more than a double up, because of what Jack has mentioned, that depending also on how many animal traits your animal has, you get a significant premium for the points that you're collecting. And also that animal floor is a pretty thin one, because it's only like 10 sales away to hit 4 ETH. So if you compare it in terms of the OG Azuki collection, animals now trade at a 2-to-1 ratio. So they trade at half the price of one OG Azuki, which is obviously, from my perspective as a holder in PFP Rocker, a very, very lovely news to look at.
That's really interesting. And I guess the additional interesting thing about that is the animal floor is going up because when you got it, maybe it was 1 something back then. But
I overpaid for mine so much. If I just had picked any floor animal, I would have been up 2x, but I paid a lot for mine because I just liked it. So I think I'm still down in ETH terms.
Oh, I see. Okay. But as in, the animal floor is still up, whilst the main elementals collection obviously was tanking during that period of time. So the general elementals collection has just been like down only for however long. It's probably stabilized now. But the animals collection is obviously going up in that period of time. So that is interesting to see. Shiv, I wanted to give you a chance to come back on my response to you, and then we're going to head to SHR.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the dot on the last point you made there. I think my kind of like concern initially was, in the long term, I don't want it to risk hurting the culture by taking away from people who don't seek to be officially recognized, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't use the platforms we use. There's a lot of people who don't use Twitter. There's a lot of people who perhaps don't even have their thing connected to the website or whatever it is, but purely they're in it for being part of the community and want to embrace the culture, proliferate it without being recognized. And I don't want that to be diminished or undermined compared to someone who has a larger collector status. Sure. So that's kind of my kind of concern in the long term. But I already spoke about it with some members on the team. So seeing if that is going to be addressed in some sort of capacity would definitely be interesting to see. But that was kind of like my main thing, right? But I think you also hit the nail on the dot as well, because a lot of people in this space perhaps are looking for something to be quantified in a way. So it's a balance. It's a tricky balance, honestly.
Yeah, I hear that. It's definitely a balance that you're going to try to strike. We've also got Whale up on stage with us, which is very useful because we're going through his thread at the moment. But first, we just said we're going to go to SHL. Well, we're talking about the collector status, so maybe we could get your thoughts in just a second. SHL, first though, welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on the collector status?
Thank you so much for having me, brother. So I kind of had a look through. And to be honest, I was kind of glad that Azuki are kind of bringing something out for their holders. And I think it's very much deserved, especially with the community sticking by them for so long. And there's some really OG members that have kind of been there. But the way that I kind of see things is like, okay, Azuki didn't have an amazing year as they should have last year. But this year, I genuinely feel like, okay, they are setting things in stone. It's looking like things are coming. And I feel like they are going to probably bring something out that's going to maybe bring a lot of happiness to the holders, let's say, the community. But my only question is, right, seeing Pudgy, obviously, just bringing them into it really quickly, seeing the success of what they had in 2023, is like have Pudgy kind of set expectations for Azuki to kind of deliver on at the same time? Like, are the community maybe looking for similar expectations as it was for Pudgies, or are they going to be satisfied with what Azuki delivered itself more than anything? So that's just the question I have, and I guess that'll kind of unfold when the time and the moments do come. But nevertheless, I do think it's a great system that they've got in place, and I'm kind of excited to see where they go, because I feel like it's very much deserved. Everyone loves the art, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it so far.
Yeah, I like the question. I guess that's one of the ones we're kind of working through. Do we think this comparison is apt? Pudgy's obviously doing exceptionally well, and some of the verticals do seem to be crossing. There are some similarities here. Would love to hear your thoughts, Whale. We've kind of been making this comparison between the Pudgy Penguins and the Azuki collection, and the difference in reaction in terms of floor price when the news was announced on Friday for Azuki's. It kind of tanked for a little bit. Seems like there might be a bit of readjustment because of all this collector status going on. Maybe people don't want to hold certain things, but they do want to hold others, whereas Pudgy just seems to be up only at the moment. Would love to hear your thoughts on this comparison in general, but also just anything that you think on this latest update from Azuki.
Yeah, maybe to touch on your second part first. I think what the collector status probably above all really is like a way to reward rarity within an NFT collection. I think that's something really when I heard that from Azuki when they introduced it. I think it's really something unique and, in my opinion, something really useful, because we are in a market where rarity and trades and all this what kind of is, if you think back to the beginnings of NFTs, to the days where board API clubs were trading sometimes for 2 or 3x the floor price because they had a special trade combo. I think it's really something useful to bring kind of the rarity back and kind of the culture within an NFT collection. So I think that's an important part to mention there. On the kind of perception of the market, that's another question, a really interesting one too. To be honest, I expected a bigger pump like when Azuki came out with the announcement, but if you look back, it remained pretty stable, whereas Pudgy Penguins had like another leg up. I think they're above 12 ETH now. So that's crazy. To be honest, I think it has a lot to do with momentum. Like Pudgy Penguins had a lot of momentum in the past, and they kind of continue the upward momentum in recent weeks. Whereas Azuki, after the Elementals drop, had, like previous to the Elementals drop, I think Azuki had all this upside momentum that Pudgy Penguins had in recent months. And I think this event kind of changed the narrative in a few ways. So even more positive news, and definitely think like the announcement they made is a good one. And personally, like from being a holder without the other involvements, I thought it was an announcement that made me like feel better about Azuki and the direction they're going in. But I think it has a lot to do with momentum, and Pudgy Penguins just has like one of the best and most upward momentums in the space right now.
Yeah, I really like that point, actually. If you think about it in terms, Pudgy Penguins have been doing really well. Everything seems to be like a next step up, whereas Azuki obviously took a hit at that period of time. And so I actually really, really agree with you. When I read this on Friday, my instinctive reaction was like, wow, this looks awesome. This is really, really good. But yes, because of the most recent history, and given that the majority of market participants are either trading or allocating on most recent history, I think this might be like leg one of proving that they're able to execute and get back onto the right track. Whereas I guess Pudgies are on like leg 5 or 6, continuously building on top of whatever has come before. So I think, yes, I think you're right. I think that explanation makes a lot of sense. Interestingly for you, Whale, because someone deeply connected with the Azuki ecosystem, we had Crypto Mochus on YouTube coming in with this comment saying, I'm definitely more interested in Azuki now. I needed a confirmation that they're working on something appealing, and the anime market is huge. And the first trailer showed that outsiders love it too. Do you think that whale is something that will be a kind of general perception that people would this is all what people were looking for? They were just looking for confirmation that they were working on something, or do you think it's more to do with execution too?
Yeah, I think the communication part is definitely a huge one. Like, people like to know in which direction projects are going, and I think the announcement made it very clear. I also think the collector status gave like another incentive, like to maybe build up your points, similar to a way. Even though it's kind of different, but if you think about it, like from the holding perspective, what Memeland did back then, where you collected maps when you held your captains. So it gives an incentive to hold, because if you sell, you lose your points, and that's similar to how Zuki did it. So I think that's definitely something people were maybe have been waiting for, even within the Azuki community. Like, I saw a lot of tweets from people who were already in the Azuki community, who also said like they waited for this bigger announcement, which kind of made the vision more clear, and maybe give like a broader overview about where Azuki wants to move, like immediate in the next few weeks and months, but also like long term. And I think that's why I agree with your take, Bijak. Like, personally, I thought it was a really good announcement. So yeah, but of course now the words are out, and now it has to be followed up with action and with delivery. So that would probably be the more interesting part, because it brought, maybe bring it back to Pudgy Penguins, they also followed up with actions, right? That's why they're in such a good position. So that's probably the next step now.
For sure, makes a lot of sense. Clearly, we are pushing the conversation towards Pudgies. They are the headline of the show today, or they will be again. We started off with that. We thought we'd touch on Azuki first, but we do want to get into that. Jack, I know your hand's raised on this, but want to give Pudgies the appropriate time. So I hope you can come in. We're going to swing it around to that. Legendary, just a final point on this. I think you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very, very interesting conversation around Azuki, and I will have them from the Azuki team on my spaces with CTX tomorrow at 4 p.m. CET on the show. So if you are interested to follow that conversation a bit more in the Azuki plans, we will have plenty of time to do that in tomorrow's show in the afternoon.
Very, very cool, because I think people do want to talk. There's always three communities people want to talk about. Azuki, I forgot. Azuki, Pudgy Penguins, and those damn D-gods. People just love talking about them. If you want to talk about them more, join Legendary's show tomorrow. We want to get on to Pudgy Penguins now, though. Let's get into it. Legendary, we've gone past a 12 ETH floor. I think you said the most recent price at the start of the show was 12.8.
12.8, yeah.
What is going on? That's like up 15% on the day. What's going on?
Very good question. I'm currently updating the title of the show.
Let's throw to Jack first then. Jack, what's going on?
Yeah, I think for me, I had like a collaborative point, so I kept my hand up. But what this is showing me is that regardless of what is going on in the space and what we debate NFTs are, IP is so important. And like the idea that these aren't collectibles, I think has just been thrown out the window with how much value people attribute to people growing their IP and their brand with their projects. And I think that is something that, Azuki with their anime play, but Pudgy Penguins with everything that they're doing with their game, with the plushies, with, basically taking over Instagram. Like, I genuinely, like, if I scroll Instagram, which I don't do a lot because I live on X, but when I do go over there, or when my partner goes over there, like, if it's an animated video, it's like Beans or it's Pudgies now. And I'm seeing more and more NFT projects just take over Instagram when it comes to animation. And I think that's a major part of what people are looking for when they're picking up these things. They want that collectible aspect, and you can look at Pokemon cards, you can look at whatever you like, but these are feeling like a top tier collectible with obviously some sort of asset class connected to the underlying, the importance and the success of the underlying project, which is just something that you can't call security, you can't call it anything else. It's an NFT, and that's sort of my point on this.
Yeah, that early focus on dominating Instagram, on working on GIFs, on being so prominent on Giphy is insane. Like, I think about it every day when I chat with my parents on WhatsApp. My dad is 70, my mom 66 years old, and both of them use Pudgy GIFs. And by now they also know that they're NFTs and everything. They were aware, both of them were aware of NFTs, but they didn't know that those penguin GIFs that they've been happily sending around in the family are NFTs too. And just for them to be able to penetrate a demographic that is, well, in their 60s or 70s is utterly insane. The first time my dad sent me a good morning with a Pudgy, I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, that is pretty. I mean, they've really, really penetrated online culture. Like, and as you say, there are all kinds of people who are typically completely disconnected from our universe who are using Pudgy Penguins GIFs all the time, quite routinely. Funky, you had an interesting comment in the comments about a first inner igloo meeting of 2024. Then I've got another comment, and then I'm going to disagree with you guys a little bit. Just going to throw that out there. I'm going to come in with something in just a second. Funky, you first.
Yeah, I didn't get to attend the first Inner Igloo meeting yesterday because I was with family, but a lot of times those happen bi-weekly. There's a lot of good information shared. So it could have been something that was there that maybe is responsible for the pump. I think that's part of it. I really think that it's just Shiv telling people that he wanted a full-size Pudgy, and then people just like, oh, we got to get it before Shiv gets here. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say this was the first time I've ever heard SHL's voice, and it's not what I expected at all for that cute little samurai Pudgy. But anyhow, I think that maybe had something to do with it.
I thought it was a very cute voice that SHL has, both in real life, in person. I met him the other day, and online. Very cute, very representative of his profile picture. Shiv, were you actually in this little cabal meeting? Sorry, I mean igloo meeting.
So every 2 weeks, Luca and the C team do this thing called the Inner Igloo, where it's a private like call in the Discord where the community members can join in, and it's very open end discussion in terms of what is the team doing, what is the vision kind of moving forward, and overall just like good vibes and discussing. So if you guys didn't know, at the beginning of the year, the C team went on a retreat. This is where they blocked off all meetings and everything to kind of align visions, what they want to do for 2024, and really prep themselves from taking the bar where they are right now to the next level. I think 2023, when it came to Pudgies, was really about setting the standard and laying the foundation down. And now 2024 is how can we take what we've done and amplify it and proliferate the vision. So that's essentially what the discussion was about yesterday. I don't want to drop too much alpha because it's very much a holders only kind of thing you tune in. But one thing I'll say is with Wales giving me the thumbs down, even though he's a holder and decided not to join. So with Pudgy World that is coming up very shortly in Q1 this year, there's going to be some playtests that's going to happen. There's going to be some playtests. So a lot of stress testing to make sure that obviously the game can be handled. That being up to 400 people in a lobby because it's a browser game that should be running very smoothly. So that will be coming up very soon. Other than that, there was nothing really like of speculative discussions that would have shot the price up or anything like that. It's just good vibes. But that's how it's always been for Pudgies. We don't really want to push like this is going to happen. Like the announcement of the announcement of the announcement, if that makes sense, right? It's kind of just like, hey, we're just doing this. This is an update and let's have good vibes.
Really, really interesting. That's kind of cool about the playtest. That's definitely something that I guess a lot of people would be looking forward to. So that sounds really fun. I've seen, okay, so I want to go to Kalano, who I think is trying to speak, but is on desktop because hasn't figured out Twitter Spaces yet. And then I'm going to come in with my take, which I believe Braden in the comments may agree with me with. Kalano first.
Thank you for seeing my waving hand. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to add on the Pudgy thing. You know, there is only 9% of the total holders that have been buying a Pudgy within the last 30 days, and 60% haven't sold, basically. So I think what I think is underrated is how much of an impact retail is going to have on Pudgy. Like, while we all say, oh yeah, it's great to be in Walmart, personally, coming from a retail background, I still think it's actually underrated. But I have a question. It's like, at what point do we think we are a little oversold right now? Because it's past 12 ETH. I think it's now at 12.5 ETH. So, you know, are we at the top? And a local top, I guess, is kind of like an open question, maybe for Shiv, since he's in Igloo. But, you know, I would be quite careful maybe right now to purchase Pudgy. I can't afford it, you know, so I'm not speaking for myself, but I'm just saying as an open question.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile question to ask, right? And maybe that links into what I have been thinking, and I said this on the show not too long ago, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it quite definitively in my mind. Again, this is my opinion. I don't know anything for sure, but I haven't heard anyone else say it, despite us talking about why the token is going up so much and sustaining a price so high when the rest of the market is really struggling. I think that there will be a token. I don't know how a project would be able to sustain this type of activity for such a long period of time without there being one. And I think that's getting priced in as things are going up, it's just getting priced in. So to the question of like, well, how much higher can it go? Well, I think the way to figure that out would be to start to run numbers on potential token releases to figure out potential comparisons, maybe with ApeCoin or other projects that have released tokens, and try to figure out how they were distributed amongst these types of collections. Now, we obviously have no idea how it might get distributed, and we also don't know that it's even going to happen. But I'm saying that's what I would do based on how I've seen the market move in the past without any concrete information. Legendary, what do you think about that?
Very, very fair approach. I mean, we've seen a very similar story play out with Pixelmon. As soon as the token rumor solidified into actually having a token, the price that was already rallying continued to shoot up further, hit 2.1-ish, 2.2-ish ETH, and ever since has then corrected down to, what is it, 1.5 ETH floor. So even if you think that all of the pump is due to a token speculation, or at least it has a majority contribution to that, even in that mental model, a correction that Kelano has pointed out could still have happened. From a potential buyer side, I think the question is really, if you buy a Pudgy right now, what are you buying it for? Are you buying it for to be in with the community and be part of what they're building and having the upside of, you know, a potential additional pump, potential token? Or do you just want to buy them as a purely speculative asset and just maximize your return? And I think that Pudgies are past this point. Like, realistically speaking, Pudgies won't do a 5 or 6x from here, so it's too big of a bet for that. And hence the buyers that they're attracting right now might be more on the sustainable side. I didn't have a look at the data that Kelano has pointed out, but from what I've taken from that, if there's so many new entrants joining the ecosystem, that obviously is a very, very healthy sign, and for me points towards more like organic purchasing activity versus just speculating on, you know, a future pump of the collection.
Okay, so this is one of the, I mean, Braden just wrote in the comments, why no mention of all the airdrops Pudgy will get? Surely that's driving the full price. Ah, that's an interesting point. Pudgies were included in the Dimension airdrop, which is taking place across what technically is that chair? Is it Celestia? I don't know. But basically people who are using Ethereum, Solana, and if
Polygon
you
stakers, TIA stakers, Polkadot, I think, also got an allocation, as well as Pudgy holders. And Pudgy holders did get quite a lot of points.
Yeah, it was Mad Lads holders and Pudgy Penguins holders who got the most. So it does seem like the most popular collections right now are, or that seem to be like favored in terms of like, let's give you free stuff. Once upon a time, though, that was the Bored Apes. I feel like that has shifted now to Pudgies and potentially Mad Lads as well. I mean, certainly if it was like exclusively Solana, maybe Solana mobile holders plus Mad Lad holders, maybe Tensorians as well. But on the ETH side, it's like, despite other projects having much higher prices, all the attention is with Pudgies. But so I think that is a really good point, Braden. Thank you for bringing that up. However, the important thing I was thinking about is this question of market caps and why projects absolutely pump when tokens seem to be coming down the line. And one of the really confusing things, I think, and I don't know why we don't do this, is we never report on projects' market caps. We're fixated on floor price for like the cost of the individual way to enter into a project, but we don't talk about market caps. We don't talk about market caps. We don't talk about like fully diluted valuations. And I think what's become obvious is that like the value of Pudgy Penguins, like on a FDV basis, if they were to launch a token, is way higher, and their market cap is way higher than what it was when they were 5 ETH, and you just add up all of 5 ETH over and over again. Because I think what happens, and you need to check the numbers on this, I'm kind of speaking out loud, but a lot of these collections, when it's purely NFTs, will have like multi-million-dollar market caps. But when you move these things into the ERC20 economy, like it's just way, way more liquid, like on such a significant in such a significant way, partly because they suppress the circulating supply and they keep that low, and it kind of inflates the FDV. But it just becomes a way, way more liquid market cap, and those values go much higher, which is why those NFTs will go up so quickly, because they know that inflated value could be coming their way. Legendary, any reflections on that? And I see Funky with his hand raised. Want to throw to him?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the perfect collection to have a deeper look into this is Captains, is the meme land ecosystem, where you have a token claim that is still pending within Captains, and where the expectation also was that the floor price of Captains will dunk significantly after the airdrop, which in fact didn't really happen. Yes, there was like a small correction that basically got bought up within 1 or 2 days. And that's also, well, there is a quote unquote fundamental value to the Captains, even in absence of the pending token claim that they still have, but also just a further solidifying of the collection by having an ERC20 token that is doing quite well price wise and has that amazing market cap plus FDV is very helpful. On the flip side of it, if your token crashes and the token inflation keeps going on, which is the case which we're seeing with Ape, then basically it drags down all of the collections in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. That's always the danger as those tokens start to vest. Can you keep generating enough buy pressures to sustain the price to counteract all of that sell pressure from all your initial investors and any other stakers of the token? That's a very good point to make. Shiv, your hand is raised as well. We're going to go to Funky first and then conclude with Shiv. Funky.
Just a real quick aside, in addition to the Penguins and Mad Lads getting a lot of attention for NFTs that are getting in these airdrops, Bad Kids from Cosmos, if you guys aren't paying attention to that, their floor is now like 4K. I had one that I bought for like $120 and did something in a donation for Teddy Dow and gave it away. But yeah, Cosmos, the Bad Kids are sort of seen as the punks, and I know that everybody's really focused on NFTs. They are both ETH and Solana degens are coming in hard, and that's why the floor shot up, and they're now starting to be included in a lot of these airdrops as well.
Interesting. That's really very, very interesting. I mean, we could do a whole show, and we have spoken about Tia a lot, Celestia and Stakers there, and Atom and Cosmos and the stuff that's going on there. It's probably out of scope for diving in now, but if you haven't woken up to the Celestia ecosystem yet, I mean, not only is the underlying token up, it came out the gate at like $2, is at $20 now. And all of those stakers keep getting airdrops over and over again. So it's definitely something you want to be aware of. Something's been on our radar for at least a couple of months. Shiv, we're drawing towards the close of the show. Let's conclude on the Pudgies, on some of this bullish price action, and maybe anything that you think with regards to the token as well.
I'll keep it short and snappy because I don't want to keep it in time. I'll be completely honest with an unbiased take. There's nothing that we're really kind of pushing from our side for people to speculate into buying on Pudgies as of right now. It's really based on the execution delivery that we've had throughout 2023, and that what we set out to do in 2024. But also what Funky said and what you guys just touched on, Pudgies are also in the conversation, a lot of these airdrops. So Dimensional is one of them, and it's not going to stop, especially going into 2024. There's going to be a lot of other airdrops that simply Pudgy holders will get for just being part of the collection. So I don't know if people are buying into that after the Dimensions drop. Possibly. I mean, obviously, don't disregard that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I just thought I'll throw that in there real quick.
Love it, Shiv. Thank you so much for that. I think that's completely appropriate. You're right. There's just a lot of, and I saw, what was the quote that I concluded in the snapshot earlier? It was from Loopify. It was said something. It didn't mention airdrops or anything like that. It just said, there's been really positive price action. I might read it actually because that might be better. But it was something to do with. He said, Pudgies at all-time high in USD value, insane. Regardless, if you believe the value reflects fundamentals, the important thing is a collection doing well has the fundamentals. And I think that's like one of the most refreshing, positive things to move forward into 2024, which is the top tier or one of the top tier collections has really, really earned it. Like they have really, really earned this moment of being considered right at the top. All of the holders who've been supporting and all of the other projects that want to now throw airdrops or opportunities or whatever at them, like they've really earned it by busting their ass off in the last year in various ways, right? On the consumer side, on the gaming side, on the digital marketing side, like in every single way. So I thought that was a nice way to kind of cap it off on a quite positive note, because I think they do really, really deserve it. And I really look forward to seeing whatever direction they go in the future, because they've executed super hard in 2023. Legendary, any final thoughts before we round up?
That is the perfect way to finish the show. So I have nothing to add to that.
Sounds good. Guys, this is our daily show from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT. We're here every single day. We're live on X. We are live on YouTube. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and we will be back tomorrow. Hope to see you there. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.